All right, I'm not sure if any of you could hear me earlier, but I'll start again just in case. Hi, so my name is Luan, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm so excited to have you here, joining us from all over the world, I'm sure. Now, you might be familiar with our usual format, right? Where a tutor like me gives a 30-minute presentation followed by a Q&A session, but today is a little different. In this webinar, we are dedicating the full hour to you and your questions. So I hope you've come prepared with plenty of things to ask because I'm ready to get into it with you and help you with whatever's on your mind, TEFL related, of course. So as usual, we would love to see who's here today. So please put your name into the chat and tell us where you are. It would be lovely to say hi to you. And just while we wait for those names to come in, a reminder to get those questions ready because there will be no formal presentation today. It's all about you and your questions, whether they be about the assignments, whether they be about the course content, or just the world of TEFL in general. Whether it is to ask me about personal experiences that I've had in the world of TEFL, just questions related to worries and concerns that have been on your mind, you're free to ask. So get them ready while we go. Right, so just a little bit about myself before we get started. As mentioned, my name is Luan. I've been with the TEFL Academy for a very long time. I have been a teacher for over 15 years. I teach online, in class. I'm an examiner, and I also train teachers. So TEFL has kept me really, really busy, but that also means that I'm able to answer quite a few of those questions that you might have. I have been in the teaching industry for a while. I love my job, and I'm really happy to be just a small part of your exciting teaching journey. So names have come in, right? And I'm very, very happy to see those. They're coming in quite quickly. So we've got Subash from India, we've got visitors and listeners from England. Wow, hello to you from Canada, more from England, Senegal, welcome to you. Also, South Africa. Yeah, keep those names, keep those countries, towns, cities, keep them coming. It is amazing. And I think really quite indicative of just the world of TEFL that on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, you are just talking to people from all over the world. Quite interesting, quite fun. So, as mentioned, today is a little different. We will be answering questions from the start. So, you can already start typing your questions in the chat right now. Questions that you might have about the course content, questions you might have about the assignments, questions that you might have about jobs, job hunting. I might not know everything there is to know about every country and their application process, but of course, I'm going to give you as much guidance as I possibly can. Just the world of TEFL in general. If you need to ask me about experiences I've had in the classroom and how I dealt with those, I will be more than happy to share the triumphs and the embarrassments with you. Please note, though, that only TEFL-related questions will be answered. I will not be, unfortunately, screening or pre-approving assignment work on this webinar, just answering questions. And if I do miss a question of yours, don't worry, I will go back a few times to check. However, if we run out of time or I completely miss your question by accident, remember that you can also send any questions or concerns to tutor support. We are on standby literally 7 days a week to answer all your queries. So yeah, I think it's time to get started. So let those questions start rolling in, right? Okay, so a couple of questions have already come in, but remember, keep them coming in. You don't have to wait for me to answer one question before you punch in your question. Keep them coming. And as mentioned, I will go back up and down a few times to make sure that I haven't missed anything. Right, so the very first question we have is, I have completed the level 5 course. Which sites can I apply to? Oh, Subash, there are so many sites out there, right? So when we, when you wrap up your TEFL course, we do give you access to job information and job sites. And those job sites are all of the relevant sites that you are meant to apply to, right? They will be sites that host maybe for particular countries, but there'll also be sites that host and place job applications from all around the world and also online work. So please, Subhash, if you haven't already had a look at our jobs board, have a look today, right? It gets updated on quite a regular basis. You do get access to the complete jobs board once you complete the course, but I also know that there's a general jobs board available. Go onto our website, click onto, I think it's jobs, literally, and hundreds and hundreds of positions come up. You can filter them according to the country. I think you can also filter them according to whether they are online or face to face. And in addition to that, lots and lots of useful information also about jobs from around the world. Okay. All right. So the very next question that I'm going to answer is from Farrell. Hello to you. And the question is, hello, can you please go through some more concept checking questions? And can you share fail-safe tips to create CCQs? That is a great question. And you know why it's so great is because I love concept checking questions. If you listen to any of our podcasts, you'll hear me blossoming and flourishing and having a wonderful time when we're talking about concept checking questions. Now, remember, Farrell, that you can have concept checking questions for vocabulary, and you can also have concept checking questions for grammar. So I'm going to go through maybe a few examples of both of those just so that you understand, and also some of the rules to bear in mind when creating concept questions. Also, to the rest of you listening, please remember to start typing your questions right now, because when I'm finished with this one, I'd like to get right into the next question, because very often what happens is in this webinar, lots of the questions come in towards the end, and then we don't have time to answer all of them. So please include your questions, type them right now. So let's get back to Farrell's question. Right, so when it comes to concept checking questions, let's take a look at vocabulary first, and let's have a look at where in the lesson they occur, right? So if you're teaching reading, a reading lesson. Now remember, a reading lesson means that your learners are going to read a piece of text, maybe a story, maybe an article a little bit later on in the lesson, and then you're probably going to give them questions based on that particular text, right? Whether it be comprehension questions, skimming and scanning questions, that all comes into play. Now, very often, before we give our students a set of comprehension questions, we give them a set of words that they've got to learn before, right? We don't just give them a piece of text and say to them, right, read this and answer the questions. And the reason for this is because there might be a few above level items of vocabulary in that text that are too difficult for your students. And we really don't want to have these words that they don't know cause issue. And the reason for this is because we want them to enjoy the practice of reading, right? And then vocabulary items that are above their level tend to get in the way, stumbling blocks. Think about it yourself, reading a piece of text in another language, and there are these words that you don't know. Well, it kind of destroys the moment, right? And you don't enjoy the process as much because now you're wondering, if I didn't understand that word, am I getting this right? Do I understand the text? And for that reason, we pre-teach vocabulary. Right, so this gets done in the vocabulary pre-teach stage, which is usually the second stage of a reading lesson. So, as mentioned, these items are usually above the level of your students, hence the need to pre-teach them. So the first thing we do is we try to elicit the word from our students. We reinforce the meaning of the word and the form. Now that we are pretty sure that our students have understood the word, we could maybe move on to the next word on our list, but it would be irresponsible to do so without double checking that students have really understood the meaning of the word. And that's where concept questions come in, right? So we ask concept questions to really just confirm that our students have understood the meaning of the word before we move on to the next word on the list. So now remember, You've elicited the word from them. The word has been written on the board. You've explained the meaning, confirmed the meaning. But now, what is the most useless question to ask students, right? The question that really doesn't help you or your students is, do you understand? So think about concept questions as a way to really test that they've understood without asking them, do you understand? So let's look at the word addictive, right? So you have elicited the word from your students, maybe by saying to them, right, I love to watch TV. I watch TV all day long. I wake up, my TV goes on. If I'm traveling, I want to watch something on screen. We can say that TV is really what for me? TV is, and then your students might say addictive, right? So you put the word on the board, drill the pronunciation, clarify the meaning. Now we need to ask a few concept questions. So I would ask my students, right? So if something is addictive for me, do I want to do it? My students would say, yes. Do I want to do it just sometimes or all the time? My students would say, all the time. Is something addictive if you try it and you don't really want to do it again? No, it isn't. Is something addictive if you try it, but then you want to do it again and again and again? Yes, it is. So can you see that I'm asking them, think about concept questions, and don't quote me on this, although it's going online. Think about concept questions as like those trick questions that you're asking your students to really check their understanding of the meaning of a word. Let's try another word, right? So let's think about the word convoy, right? So convoy, a convoy of cars, right? So I would ask my students, right? So a convoy, if I say I saw a convoy of cars, am I just seeing one car? No. Am I seeing many cars? Yes. Are they traveling together? Yes. Are they going to the same place or are they going to different places? My students would say the same place, right? So when you ask concept questions, make sure that your students can understand them, so use simple language. Make sure that your concept questions are closed, right? And what does that mean? It means that there are not many different options to answer with. It's either this one or this one. And based on the answer that they give, you will know whether or not they've understood the word and the meaning, right? So that is concept questions with vocabulary. Now let's look at concept questions with grammar. So let's try a tense, okay? The tense is maybe the past simple, a very basic tense. So the past simple, an example of that would be, I went to the beach on the weekend. I went to the beach on the weekend. So you've elicited that sentence from your students. The sentence is on the board. Now you want to check that they've understood that the action is finished. The time that I'm referring to is finished. And the action is definitely not happening right now. So I would ask my students, right, so I went to the beach. Is this happening now? No. Is it finished? Yes. When does it happen? The weekend. And the weekend is in the past, the present, or the future. Sadly, in the past, right? So is the weekend finished? Yes. Going to the beach, is that finished? Yes. So again, look at your students' answers. Very simple, almost predicted, and almost predetermined. And again, those concept questions are closed. There are not too many different options to choose from because you really need to know whether or not your students have understand the meaning of the sentence on the board. So, Brill, I hope that has helped. All right. And please do listen to the podcast. We've got one on concept checking, I think. And if I'm not mistaken, there might even be a webinar from the past about eliciting and concept checking. I think it's teacher language in the classroom. Just check. Also, lots and lots of useful information there. All right. So we've had a few more questions come in. That is fantastic. That's exactly what I want to see. All right, so we've got a question here. Is there a way to connect with people who may be working on the course right now to keep accountable? So they are scattered throughout the course. There are little forums where you can share information, but I don't think that they put you in direct contact with other students, and that is to maintain the privacy of our students. However, if you are doing the level 5 course, you may also just check in your course info. You might have access to a weekend course, right? Where on a Saturday, a tutor like myself will go take you through the practical elements of teaching and give you the opportunity to practice all these things, right? And on this course, you're bound to meet up to 30 people very often, right? Here in Cape Town, South Africa, our courses are always so full, and our course participants always make friends, form relationships, TEFL sort of contacts that they meet, and it's a great place to touch base. Also remember though that if you are in contact with people who may be working on the course, because I do understand that you miss that human element, right, of studying with someone, just remember that when it is time to hand in assignments and that sort of thing, keep sort of working on the assignment, share information, help each other out, but make sure that your work is very different from the person that you are studying with, right? But just to answer your initial question, check if you've got access to the weekend course. You're bound to meet lots and lots of people there. And then also there are lots of TEFL forums out there, right? So just find a few of those Facebook pages. Just check. We've got a Facebook page as well where you can see what other people are doing. So please just see if any of those avenues help, because I hear you. It is quite nice to make contact with people and just listen to what their experiences are like. And then also reach out to us at Tutor Support. We're real people there. We're not bots answering your questions. So please contact us too at Tutor Support, and we'll be more than happy just to have a chat with you, touch base with you, and also just help you with any questions that you might have about your assignments or the coursework. Some students just contact us to say, you know what, this was really nice, or this was really difficult. Or hi, how are you? I'm ready to start my assignment. And then we give them a little bit of motivation, and just a bit of human kindness. So absolutely contact us at Tutor Support. All right. Let's see. Okay, so we have a question about the assignment. I'm currently doing level 3. What is the best approach for the assignment in unit 5? Okay, so the assignment is obviously a consolidation of the preceding units, right? So the assignment is really there to assess your understanding of what you've done until that point. And the best thing to do once you start the assignment is go through the instructions page and then download the template, right? And the template really helps you see exactly what is expected. If you find the instructions too overwhelming, contact us and we will clarify everything for you. Also, a very good piece of advice is to watch the webinar on the assignment. Please do yourself a favor. We did a webinar on level 3 assignment A not too long ago. Please watch the webinar. It really clarifies everything that you have to do, and you're more than welcome to rewatch it as many times as you need to, and you can ask as many questions. Remember though, with assignments, that we cannot preview your work before you submit. We can't check and pre-approve activities, but we can definitely tell you if you're on the right track, and we can answer any questions or doubts or concerns that you might have. All right, so open up the instructions page, read those instructions, download the template, see what the expectations are. Where am I supposed to write? What do they want from me there? If you don't know what we want, take a screenshot, send it to us and say, what do you want? And we'll be so happy that you've asked rather than sitting there and struggling along. All right. And hello to all the others that have come in a little bit later from the Ukraine and Finland. And we have, oh, wow, it's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Keep, as you come in, please keep putting your names there. All right. Let's see. I'm trying not to miss any of the questions. All right, so Subash, you've asked a question that someone else just asked a little while ago about connecting with students who are working or completing the TEFL course. As mentioned, if you've got a weekend course included in your package, you will be meeting people. However, if not, if you're doing the level 3 course and you don't have access to the weekend course, then of course there are lots and lots of forums out there. We don't have any specific forums that we push, for privacy and safety. But generally, once you find those TEFL forums, everybody's there for the same reason, just to support each other and ask and answer questions. So just have a look what's online. If you're doubtful about a forum, you can send it to us. All we can do is we can tell you that it's legit, that it exists or not. So yeah, if you're in doubt, send us the link and we can have a look for you. All right. Okay. So we have a question about assessing student progress and understanding. Right. So when it comes to a question like this, the first thing I'm wondering is, are you talking about a student that you're working with in the long term or in an actual lesson from start to finish, right? So when it comes to an actual lesson, from start to finish, there are different ways of assessing understanding. That would be assessment and also techniques like concept checking, instruction checking. But if you're talking long term, this would depend very much if you're working one-to-one privately with a student, that you have you've got your student maybe through an online query, or someone has sent you an email saying I'm looking for a teacher. That would be completely on a private basis, right? So in that case, you would maybe work from a course book, invest in a course book, look at the assessments that they give after each unit. You could maybe give those to your student because those are usually in the teacher's book. You could also find online assessments for different levels, right? So you could give those to your student maybe every few weeks just to check where they are. You can also create tests yourself. So you look at what you've taught the students for the week, for example, and you create a test based on that, give them a percentage out of 100, so that they know, okay, this is where they are, and you've got a better understanding of their progress. Also, I love continuous assessment, right? So I would make sure that on a weekly basis there are plenty of speaking tasks to gauge my students' progress in terms of what they can produce verbally. I also like to give them a piece of writing per week. In the old days, you could very much give them the writing as homework. Unfortunately, with AI available to our students, I tend to now devote a little bit of class time to producing a piece of writing, like a short essay or a blog they could write, or an article they could write, just to get their get an idea of where they are in terms of writing. But like I said, lots and lots of speaking activities so that you can gauge how well they've understood what you've done. So remember, you are giving them the tools they need during the course of the week. That's the vocabulary and the grammar that they need. And then, of course, you will be assessing that throughout the week and maybe with some kind of formal assessment by the end of the week. All right. I've missed a question. I'm so sorry, Lisa. Young Learners Assignment states you need to give an outline for 21.5 sessions and not a full lesson plan for each session. Okay, right. So, Lisa, I'd like for you to send us a ticket to tutor support, right? Because I would like for you to speak directly to the tutor that marks the young learner's assignment. They just have a wealth of knowledge. Now, I could be telling you that this is what you need to do, but I think it's a lot to take in over the webinar, but I'm not leaving you hanging, right? Send a ticket to tutor support, and we will make sure that the marker of that particular assignment gets directly back to you and helps you understand everything. And I will tell you, the marker is wonderful at their job. They know what they're doing, and they'll really be able to break it down and simplify it for you. So you can exhale, don't panic, just send us a ticket. We will sort you, Lisa. Okay. All right. Okay, how can one become a tutor on TEFL Academy? All right, so Subhash, all our tutors, so I'm not sure if you mean a tutor like myself and my colleagues, or if you mean an English teacher, in a general English teacher. So remember, the TEFL Academy, we don't do placements and we don't really have, you know, we basically give the certificate and then you go out and you become an English teacher or an English tutor. So that would be that avenue. However, if you're referring to who we are, the tutors at the TEFL Academy, experience many years in the classroom, be qualified in the field, having taught in many different scenarios, and also trained teachers in at various schools, that sort of thing. So those are the credentials of all our tutors at the TEFL Academy. So when I say tutors, I mean tutors like myself. Yeah, we've been around the block, around the TEFL block for a few times. I would say experience counts for something, because I think that at the end of the day, while training trainee teachers like yourselves, we need for you to know that you're in good hands. So all our tutors are highly qualified. Our tutors have been writing course material for years, some for decades. We won't mention names, but also been in the classroom for countless hours, decades, a few of them. Yeah, so I would say experience counts. A lot of our tutors have the TEFL certificate and then some, and also university qualifications that involve linguistics, language, the understanding of teaching, and that sort of thing. Okay, I hope that helps. All right, Pharrell, I told you I like concept questions, so of course they were amazing illustrated examples. I am kidding, but yes, concept questions, I find them almost a bit of a challenge, because you're really finding innovative and creative little trick questions to ask students. Just a tip, the answers that students give you need to be short. They need to be one word, one option. It doesn't, the answers do not only have to be yes or no. They can be like with a convoy, one car or many. So just make sure that not only your concept questions are very simple, but the answers that you're expecting from students need to be simple also. They do not need to give you lengthy, wordy answers to concept questions. All right, so we've got a question. How does a TEFL teacher know what lessons and vocabulary to teach to match the school or business school syllabus? Pharrell, I'm not sure if I understand the question, to match the school or match the school business syllabus. I'm going to ask you just to maybe reword and clarify that one for me, because I want to give you the correct answer. All right, so if you don't mind, your homework right now, teacher, is to rework that question, because, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what you mean there. All right. Okay, so I'm doing level 5, but I don't see any information about the weekend course. You need to make sure that you have booked a blended course. So the blended course will include the online aspect, but also physical aspect, which means it takes you into a classroom environment with the tutor, right? So I would say the best thing for you to do is to contact student services and check if your course that you booked, because remember, we have a purely online course, we have a course that blends online with face-to-face, and then we have our level 3 and that sort of thing. So I would say, I can't see your name, but I would say contact student services, and the address is hello at theteflacademy.com. Contact them and just ask them, right, this is my student number, this is the course I'm doing. Do I have included in my package a weekend course? Oh, and if you do, have fun. They're wonderful. All right, so thank you for clarifying that in an actual lesson. Right, so this is a much easier question to answer, I think, because within a lesson, right? You have your and just for the rest of you listening, it was about how to assess progress of your students, just to check that they're on track and that they understand what's going on in an actual lesson, right? So I am a firm believer in concept questions. If you've taught them a new word, don't ask them at the end of the process, do you understand? Ask them a few concept questions. If you've taught them grammar, ask them concept questions. Then when it's time to give them some kind of control practice, give them maybe 2 worksheets to do, not at the same time, one at a time. Get feedback immediately after they've done it. Because teachers, something I want you to forget, not entirely, but in some cases, you know how when we were at school, the teacher would let us do a written exercise and then we'd hand it in at the end of the process, and the teacher would either take it home to answer or they'd mark it at their desks, right? While we monkey around in the classroom. Those days are gone. They don't exist in TEFL, right? What happens is you give them an exercise. Maybe it's a gap fill activity, maybe it's an unscrambling task, maybe it's a matching activity. Let them do it, maybe by themselves. Then have them compare answers in pairs. Why not, right? And then get feedback from them immediately. So what this looks like is your students are sitting there with the worksheet, they've got their answers, and you would say, right, Anna, would you give us the answer to A, please? And Anna says, right, the answer is red. And then the students would then see and mark that sort of thing, and then absolutely the teacher would know immediately whether or not they've understood. Then we move on to the second question, right? So Angelique, can you give us the answer to B, please? So the students get to check their own work, they get to correct by themselves, and remember that often reinforces the information, makes it more concrete, and also more likely to be remembered. Also, they get to make their own little notes, so they would maybe see that something was wrong, they get to write the correct answer, and also maybe the teacher's quick little explanation as to why this answer is correct versus that one. I hope that helps. So there's that way. And then at the end of the process, allow them to use whatever you've taught them, maybe in a speaking activity. This also gives you a chance for assessment. Walk around, listen, put them in pairs and groups, and let them talk about, if you taught them the past simple and you use the context of the weekend, then now let them talk about what they did on the weekend and then walk around as they talk, right? If you taught them travel vocabulary, and they're a low-level class, let them sit together and plan a trip in groups, right? And then you walk around and you listen and you get that assessment. Because I will tell you, teachers, that very often the best kind of assessment is when your students are producing language naturally with peers rather than standing up front doing presentations and orals and that sort of thing. I'm not a fan. I like natural conversation, just putting my students in pairs and groups, and then you've got to be, mindful, listening, not hovering too much, and also just noting down very problematic little mistakes. Don't get involved, write down the mistakes, and then afterwards have a nice Q&A where you can do some error correction. Okay, I hope that's helped. All right. I'm gonna go through. Someone's asking if I cut out, but then one of you got back saying, nope, she did not cut out. I hope not. Yeah, but if I cut out maybe just for 1 or 2 people, you can always rewatch that section a little bit later on, and hopefully it did not cut for everyone, and you'll be able to recapture the information. All right. Okay, let's see. Okay, a question from Auntie Nabu. So Auntie Nabu wants to know, in assignment A, level 5, material section, can I put flashcards or just write the materials down? I'll put a couple of flashcards. If you're creating a flashcard maybe with a word, then you can actually just do one in MS Word, with a border, write the flashcard. You can paste a picture in there if you want, and you can put that in the materials section. So yes, please, you can include a flashcard if you want to do a little worksheet or a little worksheet of discussion questions for students. Put that in there too. It's always nice to see the materials because then we know exactly what it is you're going to give to your students. So yes, please do that. Great question. Okay. Oh, I like this question too. If you never had classroom teaching experience, which is the position of every single teacher at some point, how is the process or what is the process like when you land on a position? Okay, so you're saying once you land the position, as in they give you the job, right? Now, at this point, please don't stress. That's the first thing. They've obviously given you the position for a reason. And I hope that that's what you mean, because by landing a position, we mean you've received the job offer. Okay. So if you've received the job offer, they know your level of experience and they are willing to help you, obviously. And what I will say is that very often, and this is my personal experience, as a new teacher, employers are not likely to give you the very high levels, the complicated classes. They would most likely give you a few low level classes to do, which really helps you learn on the job, right? Also, lots of schools have on the job training where they help teachers with professional development, which is really great. I grabbed every opportunity I got when I was new and I wanted to really better myself. So, very often schools offer on the job training, they offer professional development. Other teachers are gold mines of information, right? So, when you're new, and you have a staff room or teacher's room with other teachers, be that teacher to ask questions. Be that teacher to write a little lesson plan and show another teacher, what do you think of this? What can I add to this to make it more interesting, right? Also, very often schools and language centers give you a course book to work from. So you even have that security of knowing what I've got to teach, how I've got to teach it. All I've got to do in there is just make this lesson, tweak it a little to make it my own. So I will say that first and foremost, don't stress, right? If, however, your question is a little bit different and your meaning, like how do you land a position, many schools are willing to give teachers opportunity with very little to no experience. That's how we all got work. I had no experience when I landed my first job, zero. Another thing that I can advise, and this is my personal take on things, is that if you are very new and you don't have a lot of experience or you have none, try your hand at online teaching, find a private student. Because remember, the minute you are teaching online, you are teaching. And you can, put those hours onto your CV. So even if you find some work, tutoring someone, helping them with interview preparation, a private student teaching online, that all counts as teaching hours that you can put on your CV as experience. I hope that's helped. All right, so another question. Great question. Any tips on grading language? Claire, where do we start? Let's start at the beginning, right? So when it comes to grading your language, what this means to the rest of you listening, and it might be something new to you, is that your students, picture this in your mind, your students are beginners. Just picture that, a group of beginners. And by beginners, I don't mean children, because remember, in the world of TEFL, age and level are not always related, right? So maybe they're adults, they're a beginner, so very low level. They know things like hello, they know things like how are you, maybe. They maybe know a few numbers, how to count, and they know the alphabet, right? So that would be someone who's had a little bit of exposure, but they're beginners. Now imagine you're talking to them the way I'm talking to you right now. Do you think they'd understand what you were saying? So they don't speak English. Their English is extremely limited. And you're speaking to them the way I'm speaking to you right now. They wouldn't understand you, right? So you can't use their language because remember, you might be teaching in a multilingual situation one day, and then you can't use the first language of every student sitting there. So what that means is you've got to keep your language so simple, the vocabulary you're using so simple. You've got to use very literal language, not phrasal verbs or expressions or idioms. They know none of that at this point. You've got to keep your language super simple. And that's what it means to grade your language. So at the end of the day, a very basic tool to use is a vocabulary profiler. So Claire, when you're planning your lessons, I know that this sounds like overkill, but this is something that all teachers have to do. You've got to kind of think about, how am I going to say this to my students? How am I going to carry over the meaning of this to my students? Right. So I think I'll say it like this. Then you type that into a vocabulary profiler. And immediately the vocabulary profiler is going to tell you your students are A1, but this is an A2, or this is a B1, or this is a C2 word. You can't use it, right? So you've got to bring it down and keep it a lot simpler. So, for example, a student of mine was creating an activity. Sorry, a trainee teacher student of mine was creating an activity for A2 students, and it was all about traveling somewhere. And they put words like how to find accommodation, sightseeing, that sort of thing. And I said to them, you know what? Those words are too complex for an A2 student. So, how about instead of finding accommodation, think about words like where to stay, where to sleep. Instead of dining, think about where to eat. Instead of things like sightseeing, what to see when you're there. So there are different ways of getting exactly the same message across, but keeping the language simpler. And use a vocabulary profiler. That's a great starting point. The other point is, remember, at very low levels, your students do not know idiomatic, metaphorical, figurative language just yet. So if you say the band broke up to a group of A1 students, the band broke up, they won't know what broke up means. They'll know maybe break, they'll know up, but put together, they might not know what that means. So take that into consideration, because if you put break and up into a profiler, they both register as very low level, but put it together and it's got a different meaning, right? And that's where the issue comes in. So remember, vocabulary profiler is your first stop. And the second thing you've got to do is take into consideration that at very low levels, your students don't know the figurative language yet. All right, I hope that helps. Okay, right. So thank you for clarifying that. You had homework to do and you've written me quite a paragraph. Thank you very much. So Farala's asked, how does a TEFL teacher know exactly what to cover? To cover the school or business school syllabus, to ensure you're covering what needs to be done or covered, to set the official testing of the syllabus. Okay, so I will tell you about the experiences I've had. I worked at language centers here in South Africa, and basically, most language centers will give you a course book. They will tell you where to start. Like, you cannot just say, oh, well, I like this unit, I'm going to start here. No, no, no. The minute you walk in there, they will tell you, right, you're taking over this class. They are working from this course book and they are doing unit 2. And then what happens is, if you look at unit two will tell you what your students already know in terms of language. They will tell you what needs to be covered that week, and the school will provide a weekly test. You don't even have to draw that up. Now, that is best case scenario, right? And that's been mostly my experience. However, when you get to schools that are maybe not as put together just yet, developing schools, you would maybe have to draw up your own test, right? But that's testing. You're talking about the actual syllabus. Again, if you're at a school, in most cases, they will give you the syllabus. They have a curriculum, they have a syllabus. And the reason they've got one is because they've got different levels learning English at the same time. And in order for a student to move up a level, they will need to complete the preceding unit, right? And all the work that is involved there. And only once they write the test and pass can they move to the next level. It's how schools run, basically. And when I say schools, I mean language schools. So very often that is all in place for you. In fact, Farrell, I will tell you that very often it's so prescriptive that sometimes you're really wanting to loosen things up a little and add your own flavor. And the school will allow you that bit of freedom, but very often they will say to you, nope, this is what we want you to cover, this, and this. However, in the scenario where you're working for yourself, or you're working at a school where there is nothing and you've got to create the syllabus, right? Then TEFL kind of helps you do that by asking you to do work schemes. Our short courses, you are required to do a work scheme for private students. Very often you can invest in a course book and take it one unit at a time. Um, and if the tests are not provided in the teacher's book, you can create your own testing. But remember, this is when you're working for yourself, and the students are not too concerned about moving from one level to the next to get a certificate. The two scenarios differ greatly. With any language center, they give you the syllabus, they give you the pacing, they give you the test, and all you've got to do is so that you cover the work by the end of each week. It's very much on a week to week basis. The reason being, students arrive, students leave. It's a wonderful world. And I will tell you, there's so much support at the school, you won't feel lost. You'll know exactly what to do. All right. Okay, so a great question. What are some ways to incorporate technology into my lesson plans? So, when it comes to technology, I mean, it depends on what you've got access to at the school, right? So, if you've got things like interactive whiteboards or you've got internet, Wi-Fi in the classroom, you've got good audio, that sort of thing, then the world is your oyster when it comes to technology. However, if, for example, the school is quite limited, again, you might have to bring all those things in, like a laptop, make sure that there's data on the laptop so that you can show students some really nice things, interactive stuff. But also, if you are doing an online lesson, right? So, for example, for my online lessons, I use Zoom, and Zoom has got things like breakout rooms. Zoom has got little tools and things that I can use to maybe reveal part of the word. My students have got to guess the rest. There are just so many different tools that you can use. If, however, it's a face-to-face class, then yes, you'll have to see what the school has got access to, and if they've got nothing, you would maybe have to bring in a laptop, make sure that there's internet, that sort of thing. Okay. Also, quizzes. I like to give my students links to quizzes and then have them quickly click on the links, complete the quiz, and put the hand up when they're done so that I can check the answers immediately, or they can check with a partner. I love breakout rooms because you can put students in groups and they can do things like role plays, debates, that sort of thing, without you watching every move. So that they have that autonomy. So breakout rooms are a great way to incorporate technology into the classroom. And I love using videos, audio, that sort of thing. My young learners really respond to it. They love when teacher includes technology into the lesson. There are just so many ways to do that. All right. Okay, I'm going through the questions because I'm trying not to miss any. It is a little bit challenging because there are quite a few coming in. But remember, if I don't get to your question today, please, you can send it to Tutor Support. And of course, we'll try to help you and answer there. All right. Okay, so Claire has asked, in the UK, language schools ask for a DBS check. Do you also need one if you are setting up with private lessons outside of a language school? Claire, I will tell you, I do not know. Please send that to Tutor Support because one of our other tutors might know. And, we'd like to get all your answers, your questions answered. So if you do have questions that I can't answer today, for example, this one, please send that to Tutor Support. I would absolutely love for someone to help you. All right. And also just back to this question about the business. If, for example, you are specifically looking at business English, lots of you, I'm not sure, you'd have to again check what you've signed up for with the TEFL Academy, but lots of you have access to a couple of free top-up courses, right? where, for example, the business English course is one of those courses. And it's a really, really great course to help you create a syllabus of your own, right? So it gives you all the tools. And then at the end, the assignment is to create a business syllabus. However, if you're doing the course as a top-up course adjacent to a level 5 certificate, you might not need to do the assignment, but I would say if you've got access to it, do try it. But the business English course, for example, the online teaching course, the young learners teaching course, all those courses, what they have at their core is that you are potentially going to have to create your own syllabus, your own curriculum, your own work scheme. So Farrell, if you've got access to those, please do consider one of them because, yeah, they are incredibly useful. Okay, so Claire, yeah, I'm thinking definitely for safeguarding reasons, probably some kind of some action is needed from your side. So I would say probably, but I'd like to give you a more comprehensive and detailed answer. So don't forget to send that. Nana, thank you for trying to clarify that for us. But yeah, both of you maybe contact us so that we can send you the information that we do actually have. All right. Are there any other questions that I need to answer? Let's see. I'm just going through them so that I don't miss anything. Let's see. So we've got the Unit 9 TKT test. Oh my goodness. I did those decades ago. Wanted to fill in the phrase, but nothing worked. I tried editing. Okay, so the TKT, knowledge. Oh, the Unit 9. Sorry, I'm thinking about the TKT as in the TEFL. This is okay. The Unit 9, question 7, I had to fill in a phrase, but nothing worked. Okay, so do this, please. Nusha, send us the link, the actual link. Don't send us just that question because I will tell you a tutor is going to say to you, hi there, please send us the link. Okay, so copy the link, send it into a ticket and say, right, this is not working. I've tried this, I've tried that, so that we can go in via your link and actually try the activity ourselves to see what the heck is going on there. Okay, we don't want you to get it stuck. You do say that you did submit it without question 7 answered, but okay, if you've moved on and you have forgotten about that one and it happens again, please send us the actual link. And this goes for all of you. If you encounter an activity that is wonky or it's not working or you are doing something and it's just not cooperating, send us the link. Remember though, that we do not give the answers to these tests. If you think about it, I think the answer is kind of obvious because it's an online test. Other people are doing the course as well. We don't really want these tests and their answers floating around like a memo online, right? So we don't just give all the answers. We want students to look at the grades page, see what they've got wrong, and then revise the parts of the course before reattempting the test. So if you have tried that, you've revised, you still can't figure out why your answers may be getting marked wrong. I know it's a slightly different situation to what Nusha is talking about, but if you do find that something is getting marked wrong repeatedly and you feel that it's correct, you've revised that part of the course to check, send it to us and we will try and set you on the right path just so that you can get some help. All right. Okay, so I don't see any other questions coming in. If I have missed your question, you can type it again, no problem. But I think we've answered all of them, right? And to those who came in a little later, it's wonderful to have you here. Absolutely wonderful. World of TEFL, speaking to people from around the world all the time. Okay, I love this question. How often are these webinars? I think those of you who have been listening and watching for a long, long time, you could probably answer this question for Farrell. These webinars are weekly. and they're live, like right now, this is happening. It's getting dark outside, hence the light is changing on my face. So yeah, these webinars are live weekly, but if you do in fact miss them, they get logged onto the YouTube page. We've got a YouTube page, and all our webinars are there. All the webinars from the past. The only webinars we have removed are webinars to old assignment formats. The assignments have been changed a little bit, as you know, in the past few months. Don't panic, you're on the right track, but we've removed the very old format. So that's the only webinars we've removed. Otherwise, they're all available to watch and watch again. But as for the live webinars, every Saturday, it's 5 p.m. South African time. That's where I am. So you've just got to check what that means in your country and join every single week if you can. But if you miss it, you can rewatch at a later stage. This one will be available shortly. In a few days, you'll be able to watch this one. I think as soon as Monday, it becomes available. All right. All right. Thanks so much. I didn't expect the answer. I knew the answer. Okay, great. Any other questions? Yeah, it's going to be an exciting journey for you. I can tell you that. Listen to our podcasts as well. Lots and lots of interesting stuff there from teachers from around the world. We've got one coming up that we're going to be recording soon where a teacher is just going to talk about her various experiences all around the world. So please keep tuning in for that. They are incredibly helpful also. All right. So it looks as though we've come to the end of today, and it also looks as though no other questions are going to be coming in. But I do need one more thing from you. I need you to fill in the survey as usual, and we really appreciate you filling in the survey. And that's because it helps us to be better, and also just to hear how you're feeling about the webinars and all the information that we bring across. Subhash, I'm actually going to squeeze in your question quickly. Where do I find the 3 top-up courses? You don't need to find them. You contact student services. So it's hello@theteflacademy.com, and they will tell you whether or not your course gives you access to them. And also, if you don't have a free top-up course, you can buy one. They're inexpensive, they're really affordable, they're short, they're not long like your level 5 or your level 3, and you can complete them in a couple of weeks. They're so much fun, and they're loaded with useful information. I myself did one of them because I just found them so extremely useful to boost one of those niche markets that I wanted to get into. So absolutely, contact student services at hello@theteflacademy.com, and they will help you out immediately. All right. Okay, so I think that's it. I've sent you the survey link. Please, please, please fill that in. Just a reminder again, all our webinars are available on the YouTube channel in the video section. Lots and lots of useful stuff there. If you're struggling with a particular assignment, oh, please look for the webinar related to that assignment, because I think that sometimes the wording, the instructions can be overwhelming, whereas someone talking you through the assignment and actually showing you the slides and showing you the various things that are expected at the various points in the assignment, for me as a visual learner, just so much more helpful. All right, so please, if you're doing the assignments and they're coming up, watch those webinars over and over and over. All right, so I'd just like to thank everyone for joining today. It's been wonderful having you here with us. And remember to join next week, same time, same place, probably a different tutor, but I'll see you again soon in the future. All right, so don't forget to fill in that survey, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye, everyone.